I want to keep you up with us here as I bring in someone with some firsthand experience of really what it takes to plan and carry out a mission like that we saw. In the end, this is, pardon me, former Navy SEAL John McGuire. And John, in the end, this was not successful. But in a way, I know that it was successful because the special forces were able to get out without there being really any casualties aside from, I think, one injury, right?
That's correct. You know, it's hard for many Americans to understand, so maybe to oversimplify it, we might compare it to football. You know, we make a play, and sometimes that doesn't work, so we get a second down, we go back. But I think it is a win, and that everybody came back, and everybody's okay.
So explain what goes into a rescue operation involving ISIS. This is a brutal group. We have seen that play out horrifically just yesterday. Explain how long it takes really to kind of plan this and carry this out.
Well, if there are people still on Earth that think evil doesn't exist, ISIS is doing a good job proving them wrong. They definitely exist. And the only thing for evil to prevail is for good men to sit around and do nothing. But it takes a whole lot. And, you know, it's men and women in the military and other services all over the world coming together, teamwork, leadership, communication, everyone connected.
And Barbara, I know you must have many questions for our guest, John.
Yeah, I want to jump in here and ask about the danger involved in a mission like this. Look, we know that Navy SEALs, Army Delta Force, Air Force people, very well trained, very capable, and have extraordinary bravery walking into these missions. But, you know, let's get down to what it's really all about. These guys certainly walked right into it, not entirely sure what they were going to face, and got into a firefight. And from what we're hearing, it was a pretty nasty one. The kind of training that you get to do this sort of thing, you're prepared for everything, but really, reality, are you really ever prepared for a full-on firefight?
Well, I think that's why we're so stringent on the training. I think about our Army brothers, our Air Force brothers, and everyone else who serves in our military. You know, we realize some things are more important than fear. And I tell you what, if we don't have the men and women to step up and serve like we've had in our country's history, we're going to be in trouble. It's going to take men and women who can step up, realize some things are more important than fear to get rid of this evil. Otherwise, this evil is going to continue to grow.
One of the things I wanted to go, I'm sorry, Brian.
No, please, Barbara, go ahead.
I wanted to ask, you know, one of the things we're hearing is for U.S. commandos, ISIS fighters are something quite different. In other words, they are so ideologically driven. They know they may be overmatched by the U.S. military, but they don't actually care. They don't scatter. They don't make a run for it. They stand and fight and are quite willing to die for what they allege to believe in. This becomes a bit of a different enemy for you to fight. You can't scare them off, apparently.
Well, that's the reason our training is so important, and it's not for everyone. But the cool thing is, or the good thing is, that our team's trained. They're the best in the world. So it is certainly dangerous, but that's the risk you got to take to protect Americans and our interests. When
you're looking at operating inside of Syria, does that pose unique risks compared to other places where operations are being carried out in the region?
Well, to be honest, I think I speak for anyone who serves in our military. I see no positive reason why Americans know we were in Syria. You know, I think every American, I think everyone on earth wants to know what we do and exactly how we do it, especially our enemy. And I think that if we let them know those things, it puts people in harm's way. So
does it upset you it was disclosed?
I think it does. It does. It upsets me. Number one, we just need to know that we have the best people out there looking for Americans. Whether you make a little bit of money or make millions, every American is important. We've proven that with Osama bin Laden. And we're going to protect Americans as best we can. And Americans just need to know that we have amazing men and women who are willing to risk our life for freedom. And we do not need to know that we went into Syria or how we did it or what we did, because I think it puts people's lives in harm's way.
You really do? You think that it could lead to someone dying, a member of the Special Forces dying, because certainly ISIS knew about this, but you think other enemies knowing this, that it puts their lives at risk?
I think so. It's almost like, you know, it's oversimplified again. In a basketball game or a football game, you do not want the opponent having your playbook because they can counter your moves. So the less they know, the best.
Is it that they'll be ready? They'll be ready to respond?
That's right. I mean, one of the secrets
you operate on surprise?
Well, the military in general, all warfare is based on deception, whether it be even in sports. I keep going back to sports to make it simple for all Americans. But football and basketball and everything else, if people know what you're going to do, they can plan for it.
All right, John McGuire, great insight. Thank you so much. Barbara, thanks for joining us as well. Now, we have got a conversation about this, and stay with us, Brian, as we bring in, again, former Navy SEAL John McGuire, as well as CNN counterterrorism analyst Philip Mudd, formerly of the CIA and the FBI. To you, Phil, how realistic is this that ISIS has sleeper cells in the U.S.? We heard from Governor Rick Perry in Texas that, you know, he actually said it's a real possibility, that's a quote, that ISIS has crossed into the U.S. over the southern border.
I think we, after 13, 14 years of war, and in my 25 years of following these guys, we have to take a deep breath here. And the reason is this. I doubt there's a formal cell here, maybe, I don't know. What I witnessed, though, in years of watching these guys is clusters of youth who were not formally organized, who might watch a beheading video, who might be inspiring each other, and who would come together over the course of time, maybe over going to paintball, for example, and say, hey, we've seen what al-Baghdadi did, we're inspired by it, maybe we should build a backpack bomb. I think it's highly likely there are kids like that here in formal clusters. Formal cells like the kind you see in Hollywood, I'd be less convinced of that.
More some that would be inspired by it. Okay, a question to you, John. As the perspective of a Navy SEAL, do you see, and do your fellow SEALs and former SEALs see ISIS as worse than other enemies that you've dealt with? Is there something that just makes these bad guys the badder guys?
Well, I think they're not trained to the level that we are, but they're certainly a threat. And I've been following the news. I think at one point they said there were 5,000 strong, then 10,000, and I think I heard somewhere 80,000 strong. So I would take them seriously either way.
All right.
And John, how do you prepare when you're going into a raid against a group like ISIS? How do you guys prepare for it? What are you telling each other about how they're preparing? I mean, that was a long firefight, 2 hours on the ground in Syria. How do you guys go in, and what mentality do you have when you're going right up against those guys, and you know what they're about?
Yeah, we can't talk too muyou about the mission, obviously, or what we would do, but I'll tell you, it's a team, and it's a brotherhood, and I guess I cared more about the guy next to me, to my right, you know, letting them down than my own life. And I think that's the way they think, and because we think that way, we get through some crazy situations.
And you know the ISIS guys think that way too. They don't really have much of a regard for their own lives, right, in these situations.
And that's one of the reasons why it's very important that we have the best people and the best training and the best equipment. The worst thing in the world is to hear about our men and women not being supplied properly.
All right. John McGuire, thank you so much. Phil, really appreciate you being with us as well. Now, coming up, Michael Brown's parents speak out.